Financial Survival Network, helping you to survive and thrive in the new economy. Get our complimentary newsletter at financialsurvivalnetwork.com. This is the Financial Survival Network.
Financial Survival Network is presented to you by Regal Assets. Buy and sell physical gold and silver through your existing retirement plan, 100% tax-free with Regal Assets. If you want to include physical gold or silver in your existing IRA or old 401k, request your free investment kit, which was recently featured in the Forbes and Smart Money Wall Street Journal magazines. Call toll-free 855-678-6620, 855-678-6620, or visit regalassets.com. We talk a lot on financialsurvivalnetwork.com about preparing, because in this world, you can't trust the politicians to ever do the right thing. And when it comes down to their interests or your interests, guess which one they're going to pick, which is why we have Charlie McGrath back on from wideawakenews.com. We're going to talk about these pseudo debates, the pseudo election, and what you need to get ready for potentially extremely challenging and tough times. Hey, Charlie, welcome back, man. It's great to have you.
Kerry, it's great to be back on. Thanks for having me back on your program.
Yeah, so what's your take on this election mantra, the election meme that we go through every 4 years? I mean, it seems to be less and less relevant after each successive shot.
Yeah, well, I agree. I agree with that 100%. And you know, I had a guest on my radio program last night, and a friend of mine, and he during the break, we were talking about exactly this, you know, this election and how utterly devoid of reality it is. And you know, there's a lot of people that will hear that and think, well, what could be possibly more important than, you know, the fate of the nation? And you know, and therein lies the rub, right? There's just too many people that believe that the fate of the nation is not already planned out, and these people that we have that we get to vote for are picked far ahead of time because the powers that be that truly finance their rise to political power have an agenda that these guys, these puppets, will play out for them. But you know, in our conversation last night, he had a beautiful example. He said, you know, these elections are, and my guest was Doug Newberry, in case he listens to the podcast. I want to make sure he gets full credit for this, but he calls it it's the WWE. It's the World Wrestling organization in politics, and it is. It's a WWE election. You know, we have Romney and Obama go to their speech, or to their, it is a speech. They go to their debate in Colorado, and this thing's going to be on the economy. Well, that, you know, they don't mention Ben Bernanke one time in an hour-and-a-half debate. They don't mention the Federal Reserve. They don't mention the sovereign debt crisis inside of Europe. They don't mention the creation of money to bail out 29,000 transactions since 2008 to bail out foreign institutions. They don't mention the International Monetary Fund. You know, they don't touch on anything that truly is guiding our nation into the side of a real cliff. But instead, they talk about spending cuts, and they talk about Medicare, and they talk about how that, you know, their team, their blue team or red team, is going to save the day and not let the big bad evil government come in and cut your benefits. And as you and I were talking right before the podcast here, it's all a farce. It's all coming to an end, folks. Like it, don't like it, believe it, don't believe it. It's irrelevant, you know, because it is all coming to an end. As you said to me, Kerry, we run into this little problem of mathematically impossible to continue this charade.
Yeah, well, you know, they don't teach math in school anymore, along with history, along with economic history. You know, I never saw a course in all the years that I went to school in economic history, Charlie. But it's interesting because you watched that debate last night, and you know that Biden is an idiot. I mean, there's no two ways about it. Not that my sympathies rest with Ryan, because they don't trust them, because, like you said, nothing about any real issues. But, you know, the guy was chosen because he's an idiot, because he's no threat and would basically sit back while the Chicago team undermine the Constitution even further as much as they wanted to. So he's
Yeah.
perfect fall guy for that. But what I wanted to say was, I've moved. I'm in Florida now, better climate, both for business and weather, by the beach. And I start off my morning at Starbucks, and you wouldn't know it to listen to me, Charlie, but I'm a little bit of a introverted kind of reserved person. And there's this group of guys like around my age and a little bit older that are hanging out in front every day talking about the issues. So I said, well, I got some time now before the show. I'm going to hang out with them. And they're intelligent people, but they don't understand what is really going on in the world here. They don't understand that the United States is insolvent. It's bankrupt. It's done. They only can get funding by printing up money. They don't know what wealth creation's about, these guys, and there's some pretty successful businessmen in the bunch. They don't get any of it, Charlie.
Yeah.
So I look at these guys. Now, granted, they're in Florida and they're retired or semi-retired, but I look at these guys who are pretty intelligent. They don't have a clue. So where does that leave us?
Well, I know exactly what you mean. I mean, I'm friends with a few bank vice presidents and a lot of CPAs and real professionals with a lot of education behind them, and it doesn't really matter because they don't understand our monetary system at all. I sat down with a friend of mine. She's a VP of a regional bank, and we talked about the creation of money and debt and fractional reserve banking, and a lot of this stuff is just absolutely foreign, even to the people who are in the game. And it's because the true people controlling the financial destiny of this country, they are in complete and total control. And this, it's because they cannot lose regardless of what happens. They print the money. They either make interest money from lending it out to the people at interest, or lending it to the government at interest, or sometimes both. And when it gets to the point where it's mathematically impossible to pay it back, they'll just introduce this thing that we already see ravaging Europe, which is austerity. And the people that feel like they're in the know, the folks at Starbucks, the 50s, 60s year olds who are sitting there thinking, well, I got $500,000 in my retirement plan, or I have a pension that's paying me $10,000 a month, and I'm going to be okay because this is guaranteed money. They don't understand that nothing is guaranteed. Nothing is guaranteed. And when it comes to the final fleecing of a nation, all of it is gone. These people are going to be hit the hardest because this freight train of reality is going to run over them. And I bet you could do a survey of these folks that are fairly well-to-do in Florida, retired more than likely, and ask him, what happened to the folks of MF Global that were holding money in these accounts that are supposed to be segregated and as safe as any bank account when Greece defaulted by 50%. What happened? The company was gone overnight. Their money was gone overnight. I have a good friend in New York who had $60,000 in with them. And it was gone. It was just gone. That's it. There's no ATM to go to or teller or anything like that. You're just screwed. You're out of luck. Now, it turned out at the end of the day, by the time this thing went through courts and went through people that were managing the breakup, he ended up with, I think, about 60%, 60 cents, maybe 80 cents on the dollar. But
He did well.
He did do well, yeah. But this is because of a 50% write down in a nation that has less GDP than New Jersey, and so imagine on any kind of a scale, pick Spain, because people are literally dying over there right now protesting. Pick Spain. If it goes under tomorrow, we have and look, 17 nations make up the EU that use the currency. One of them's going down. Period. It's going to be the first big domino, and when it goes, it's not going to be, well, poor Europe or poor Spain or whatever nation happens to fall. Kerry, you can probably speak to this better than I. When this nation goes, a nation A, we'll call it nation X. When nation X falls, it is going to be not a week, not 3 or 4 days. It will be the very next morning we could see an absolute credit freeze and everything changes overnight. And then the 50, 60 somethings who are hanging out at Starbucks thinking they're in because they have these assets that are in digital form floating around, they are going to be the ones that are just absolutely, totally blindsided because they won't understand what's happening, and it will be explained. It'll be explained to them in jargon that they won't understand. But at the end of the day, they'll be sitting there in some cases probably with nothing. Your money was with Fidelity Investments. I'm sorry, it's gone. We just don't have it anymore. We're going to have hearings, though, so don't worry about it. We're going to have hearings, and we're going to work this out.
Hey, well, the one plus in their favor is that I've joined the group. How many of them will actually listen to me? I don't know, but I know that between you and I, we've changed a few minds, gotten people to take the necessary preparations. And we're not talking extreme preppers here. We're talking about just doing the stuff that any normal person would do to prepare for something that could happen. I mean, what you have to know is you don't buy insurance because you think you're going to get into a car accident. You don't buy insurance because you believe that your house is going to burn down. And you don't buy insurance because you think you're going to walk out off the curb tomorrow and somebody's going to run you down. You buy them because there's a possibility of an event, an unforeseen event occurring. This event is neither unforeseen or, I should say, nor, using proper grammar, it's neither unforeseen nor unexpected. It's coming, and you have the ability to get ready for it now. Simply 3 things to do. Emergency plan. What do you do when your ATM stops functioning? Number 2 is precious metals. Have a portion of your wealth, doesn't have to be a major portion, 5 to 15% in metals. And number 3 is get to preparewise.com and get some food. And I've done it. I know you have done it, Charlie. And that's really what I've been pushing the people to do, because look, you could have all the gold in the world, but if you have no food and you have no means of defense, you're going to be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And I was going to say that was probably the 4th thing is get a way to defend yourself and defend what you have, and I'm certainly not a grab your guns and hit the bunker or whatever type of guy. I've been in a war. I've seen the carnage of war, and I want nothing to do with it. That's exactly why the steps that you've mentioned are steps that I've taken. I have a plan, and my plan is not to be in the middle of any kind of a breakdown crisis, to be out trying to find food resources or energy resources. I've left myself this insurance policy, which is, the ability to stay exactly out of the limelight, out of the public eye, so I don't have to be involved in any kind of crisis situation where it's going to be confusing, it's going to be very, very scary, and there's going to be a lot of people who are just again blindsided. You mentioned, what do you do when the ATMs aren't working? Think about that for a minute. Let me paint a little scenario. In fact, I'm working on a video series, and it's going to kind of cover these topics. But, let me paint this for you, Carrie. We wake up on a Monday morning, and it's not a full-blown debt crisis. It's just another scare, right, that we're so used to now. The sovereign debt issues are causing the derivatives, estimated $250 billion of notional value of derivatives that are based on and tied to sovereign debt, are having issues and causing a crisis, causing a mini panic on Monday morning, causing the markets to go off 200 or 300 points. I mean, and this is very, very doable. I mean, we've seen this in the last couple of years happen quite often. And by Tuesday, the realization that this isn't going to be a simple fix, that nations are saying no more ESM, no more European Stability Mechanism, no more power to the central banks, no more circumventing the sovereign governments of these nations. So it becomes a bit more critical. So the crisis level escalates a bit more. So on day 2, Tuesday, we see 1,000-point drop in the Dow. Again, not outside the parameters of possibility. We've seen it. We've seen it within the last half a decade, these kind of massive percentages drop. Sure. So this time when it happens, we have triggers kick off, and markets are closed. But again, the animal spirit kicks in. And on Wednesday morning, we have conference. We have a news conference by the president, by Timothy Geithner, by Ben Bernanke, and we're going to do a closed-door meeting of Congress with officials from the IMF and you name it, fill in the blank with the alphabet agencies and organizations, and we're going to come up with a plan in order to fix this sovereign debt crisis. Now, imagine this optimism causes a big spark in the markets on Thursday. You have a 400 point rise, and Friday morning at a 10 o'clock press conference, you have the president or some other official out there in front of the cameras basically saying the game is over. The game is over. We can no longer print money. We can no longer float debt. We can no longer go. We can't go lower than zero on the interest rates. And now it is time to whatever kind of jargon they're going to use. Now it is time to come together as a nation. Blah blah blah. Austerity this, austerity that. And with this kind of an announcement, which, guys, it has happened throughout history before. This isn't fanciful thinking by me or Kerry. This kind of announcement has happened throughout history before. Of course, they're going to announce something like a limited bank holiday, maybe even limited martial law in places maybe such as state capitals to protect the continuity of government. This kind of an announcement, this unexpected, this unleashing of a global crisis of reality of the economic situation we're really in, a bank holiday or a absolute wipeout of institutions causing ATMs not to work, leads to that situation where you have 310 million people in this country. And if we say that 10 million of them are prepared to just stay in their homes for a month, 2 months, I would be very, very shocked if the number was that high. That leaves you with 300 million people that are basically sitting there with the cash they have in their pocket, the resources they have in their cabinets, the energy they have in their gas tank, and 300 other million people that are going to be competing for the rest of the food resources that are in their grocery store. We know, again, very easy to look back at very recent history and see that it takes about a minute and a half for a store to be completely cleaned out in a storm or natural disaster type scenario. So can you just imagine if even half of what I have just spoke to happened in this country, coast to coast, the absolute, literally, this word is not an exaggeration, the pandemonium that would ensue from everything from getting batteries for your flashlight, getting candles, getting gasoline, getting food, you name it. You would have 300 million people that would be forced to get these resources with whatever's in their wallet. I mean, whatever's in their wallet. I usually carry about $400 cash on me. Mainly since 2008, I've thought of this kind of scenario and wanted to have, if it totally hit the fan, I wanted to have enough money in my wallet that I could gas up and be able to get home from wherever I'm at, or maybe even get to Denver where my girlfriend lives. So I wanted to have at least that much cash in my wallet, and I'm almost willing to bet that 90% of the people in this country walk around with less than $100 in their wallet. So the notion of getting an insurance policy by taking your wealth and putting it into something tangible, gold, silver, precious metals, getting a way to protect yourself and your family, these are paramount. But it is as important as those is visiting a site like PrepareWise and getting your freeze-dried storable food, so you can not have to participate in any of that. And it doesn't.
In food riots, right? Like like an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. Which one was that? That he was in, The Running Man.
Yeah, Running Man, right?
Right,
where they food riots.
Yeah, and I mean, they're having food riots. There are people starving in Greece. Now, I've been to Greece a number of times, Charlie. I never saw anybody living on the street starving.
Right.
And now they're on the dole. And we already have people like that in the U.S. And look, I mean, you don't want to be part of the food riots, and you don't want to be part of the money riots. I keep a few $1,000s nearby that I can put my hands on, and I think it's a good idea. I've started doing this, and maybe you'll call me crazy, Charlie, but I have a feeling we're on the same page. I keep 2 silver eagles in my pocket. And a couple of weeks ago, actually 2 months ago, that was the equivalent of $54 in cash. Now it's the equivalent of $68 in cash. And part of the reason I do it is I want to always be thinking that that this is the real money, and whatever the paper's doing out there, the paper's doing. But also, it's you know what? It might come in handy. That could be your ticket to safety,
Right.
and why not do it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't carry precious metals on my person. I do have emergency kits. I don't like to call them bug out bags because then it gets you into, it paints a picture. But I have emergency kits that are in my car. They're in my office, and every one of them has silver. And I made one for my girlfriend in Denver, like I said. And one of the things I put in it was 5 ounces, 5 silver rounds. And for no other reason than if worse came to worse, she would be able to have, some medium of exchange that might get her to her destination or get her here or whatever the case may be. We do know that precious metals is money. I mean, gold's money, silver's money, has been for 5,000 years. So it's always going to be worth something. But the most important, that is with the assumption that you would be able to take your couple thousand, or I'd be able to take my couple hundred and go, knowing that something's coming, buy up what you can left at the grocery store or at the gas station as just a last minute hurrah in an effort to get ready for what's coming. But there's going to be a lot of people and a lot of situations that will not have that ability, that maybe do not want to go out. You're a big, healthy guy. I'm a big, healthy guy. Maybe I'll go see what's left and get what I can get while the getting is good. But, for the most part, I'm going to rely on what I have here to take care of myself and my family in the way of protecting myself as far as weapons go and in the way of storable food. So, and water. I mean, we didn't touch on that yet. That is the most important thing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. But I think we talked last time I was on, my goal had always been 6 months. I have 6 months worth of, I just did the simple math on how many calories I need to have at my disposal. And I penciled out 2,000 a day for myself and my son. And, 6 months worth for both of us. And then the corresponding amount of water and way to purify and clean water that I might have locally here. But and some people I tell that to, and they say, well, that's crazy. You don't need more in a few weeks. And others say it's nowhere near enough. But I think last time we were on, I think we were in the same mindset that if we go into a crisis that it requires me to live in Mad Max world for longer than 6 months, man, then I don't know how. I don't know how.
We're all doomed.
Yeah, we're all doomed. I don't know if I want to be involved in that anyway. I do live close to Yellowstone Park, so there's a hope if it's a major natural disaster, what do they call it, Ellie, extinction level event. It's the big caldera there because then I'm done. I'm checking out at the beginning of it.
Well, I think the point you're raising is a really good one, Charlie. You can't address every scenario that's going to occur. Impossible to do. None of us, you just don't have the ability to know what's going to happen. But you can take some common sense measures that in a run-of-the-mill type of crisis that we've seen throughout history will leave you protected and with the ability to protect your family. And that's what you have to look at. I mean,
yep.
If it really gets to Mad Max, forget it. We're all crazy.
Yeah, which is funny because I know when I talk to you, we're in the same mindset on that, Carrie. Mm-hmm. And others I talk to in alternative media, we're at that same mindset. But I do talk to the people on the other side of that spectrum that are looking forward to it. They're looking forward to the Mad Max world. I am most certainly not. I do think we have I know we have civil unrest right now. A lot of it's not reported by the mainstream media. I think we're going to see a lot more, especially in the bigger urban areas, in the bigger metropolitan areas. My hope is that the people that do listen to us, the people that tune into your podcast or my radio program, just glean some information as far as, it's not a bad idea. I'm not telling anybody to go get 6 months worth of food, but when you can go to PrepareWise and buy a 180 serving bucket, or I don't even know what's under $200.
It's like close to a couple $100. It's
yeah, man. Yeah, and you and I both know people will drop $400, $500 on an iPhone and not even think about it. You can go. I'm sure you're in Florida. I'm sure you can go to a Ruth's Chris tonight and drop that much feeding you
sure.
and a friend.
Oh, you're so right, and that is the thing that, and the other thing is, Charlie, you need to be grateful because every day that the system carries on and meets our needs is really a blessing that we've just taken for granted for so long. I know I myself have, and you really need to be grateful every day that you can go to the supermarket and buy that food for your family, and you shouldn't be taking anything for granted. I mean, that's really the upshot of this, which is why PrepareWise is such a great thing. And the other thing about PrepareWise, and I've had a lot of other companies approach me with sponsorships for emergency preparedness food, but their stuff, they've been doing it for 20 years. It's not 3-star Michelin food, but it'll keep you going. It's not gross. It's not gruel. It's far superior to
yeah, and it's actually good. I mean, I've eaten, Chris has sent me several samples, and I have some, and I've eaten it. I've sat down with my son on a Wednesday night and said, tonight we're doing chicken a la king, for a couple of reasons. One, I want to show him, what this process would look like. But two, I wanted to, open the bag. I wanted to see how to make it. I wanted to, get an idea of what it would be involved in it. And I'm telling you, it is pretty dang good food. I mean, it's better than I could cook. But that's for dang sure.
It's good, and it'll give you the nutrients. And
that's right.
It's really inexpensive. A lot of the other ones I've seen, some of them sell at large national chains that will go unnoticed, that will go unnamed, but a lot of them just aren't that nutritious and aren't that good and don't have the shelf life.
Look, there's a bunch of companies right now, and I'm with you. I've had several that have found the website, found the radio program, saw me over on Rents or whatever, and have talked about coming on. And it's somewhat, you and I, PrepareWise and BuyEmergencyFoods.com, they are sister websites that offer legacy premium brand food. But what's different about these sites, PrepareWise, is that they're not reselling another manufacturer. They're not reselling a brand that everybody else is selling, that is that lower quality in the food, the content that goes into it, and not as much thought because it doesn't have preppers behind the product to begin with. These guys are representatives for the manufacturers. They make it themselves. And in fact, I just flew back Monday from taking a trip down to the facility where Legacy Premium is made. And Kerry, I was blown away. I knew they were growing fast, and I knew they were, taking a lot of orders and thousands of dollars a month worth of orders were coming in. But I was really surprised at the size of the operation. They're employing, they create 50 jobs in Salt Lake City for 50 people to show up and go to work to every day. But what surprised me was their amount of material, raw material, component materials they have there, and the amount of orders that they're filling, pallet upon pallet of emergency food that's going out the door. So I was impressed. I mean, I talked to the guy who came up with the recipes, the ingredients, who's in control of all the manufacturing of it. And I'm telling you, he absolutely loves what he does. He's a consummate professional, and he has the always in the top forefront of his mind is quality control, getting a non-GMO product out the door in a timely fashion. And you can look at their prices at PrepareWise, and you'll see that they're doing it for less than the other guy.
Oh yeah, way less. And like you said, the food tastes decent, and for such a cheap amount. And you shouldn't just get the prepared food. You should also stock up on rice and pasta and grains. But having some pre-prepared food, freeze-dried, is a real plus because,
You know what?
accessibility and stuff.
I've heard that for like, I don't know, probably 3 years. I've had people talk to me about, bulk grain and bulk rice, and it makes sense, right? But when I try to fit that into a crisis scenario that I'm going to be in, or my family's going to be in, what am I going to do with bulk wheat? I don't, I
Yeah,
don't
well,
have
I'm
a bill.
talking pasta and
Yeah.
beans and rice. Have some of it, but the good thing here is, man, you don't have to go into the whole production. You just dump the packet into some water, heat it up, and you got a meal.
And you're good to go.
Yeah.
This is made for
know.
people like me who do not want to componentize things.
Exactly.
And I don't want to open a can of Nally's chili. I want to get into my Legacy Premium and have a decent meal that I know isn't packed with a bunch of preservatives and GMO garbage.
Exactly. So we're on the same page there. So you really need to, one, make a plan. It doesn't matter if your plan's going to work or not. They say the first battle plan is gone in the first 30 seconds of the battle. But as long as you're thinking in that direction, that's a plus.
Yep.
Get the metals, get the food, have a means of protecting yourself for certain. Nothing wrong with that, because the only time any of that matters is when you need it and you don't have it. If you have it, then it doesn't matter because you've got it. And I tell people that all the time. And, I'm from the Northeast. They just think that the idea of protecting yourself is an alien concept, They just
I think
don't get it.
I think especially, from your home stomping grounds in Northeast, the concept of protecting oneself is completely different than out here in the West. The concept of protecting yourself in New York is your investments. I'm protecting myself. That's,
Yeah.
I talk to the people on the East Coast, and that's really what they think. Who they have their investments with and how their investments are doing, and it's this notion that everything is going to remain the exact same, and even if it gets bad, there'll be a government or a quasi-government agency there to save the day. And there's going to be a lot of people. Well, I've said that there's going to be a lot of people surprised, but can you imagine just how fast what seems to be safe and what seems to be a safety net evaporates? And again, I harken back to my friend in New York who was with MF Global and how he thought his account was segregated. He had $60,000 in there. That's serious money. And one second it was there, the next morning it was gone. And imagine that on a scale of epic proportions. And those are the kind of numbers we're talking. J.P. Morgan with $100 trillion in notional derivative value. You have the estimated conservative, probably more liberal estimate of $2 quadrillion of these notional derivative values floating around out there. And it just takes one domino to start it rolling, and everything comes apart. We haven't fixed the debt crisis. We've just pushed it to a different form. And this one is more insidious than any of and all of the others combined, because it has landed all of this debt, all of this burden, all this potential failure is going to land on the people of the nations involved. And it is a global banking cabal. So it is every person on planet Earth that has a central bank running their financial system and their economic system, which is most of this planet. So to think it can't happen is to put your head in the sand and hold on to a normalcy bias. But even if you're listening to Kerry's program or my program and you don't think this can happen, and you think he's nuts, and you think I'm nuts, well, you know what? Take this piece of advice for what it's worth. For the price of the dinner that you're probably going to go have in New Jersey or New York or wherever on the East Coast this weekend, you can put a month's worth of calories away, just in case the crazy guy on the podcast was right.
You're totally with it there. And just to give you a little anecdote that happened to me a few weeks back, Charlie, maybe a month and a half. I go to the ATM in my town. It's a large bank that has a blue logo. That's as much as I'll say about them. And
I got it. I figured it out.
You figured it out. And I stick my ATM card into the slot, and the thing goes, bah, bah. It doesn't like it. And I do that 2-3 more times. And I say to myself, oh, so is it starting now? And then I start going over my plans. So the 4th or 5th time I stuck the card in, it opened. But what if it didn't?
Right.
What if you went to your ATM and said, sorry, you can't have money. We're experiencing technical difficulties, which has happened to millions of people around the world in the past few months from all these so-called bank glitches.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't emphasize this enough, Charlie. You need to be prepared for this, because this thing is a house of cards. It's a bunch of dominoes, and we're at the abyss, and I don't want to make you nervous. I want to give you solutions so that you are ready, so that you aren't a victim, that you have some control over what you're going to do. That's what Charlie and I talk about, is solutions. I don't want to depress you. There's nothing you can do about these idiots, these sociopaths running the show. They're in charge. They're going to blow the thing up. If they're going to blow it up, they're going to do it. All you can do is prepare for the worst and hope for the best.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And that's a great story, because that analogy, everybody, I'm going to tell a story. I'm going to embarrass myself right now on your program, because on this very day, today, this morning, I brought my son to school. I'm very, very busy. I work a full-time job, and then I come home and I do my website and I do my radio program, and I'm usually up till pretty late with that. I go to bed, and this is my Monday through Friday. It's just nonstop from 5:30 in the morning until 10 o'clock at night. It is go, go, go. And so I'm making excuses beforehand here for my story, for the punchline. I drop my kid off at school. I make it out of the parking lot, and I'm heading. I'm going to head to the office. I get about a block, and all of a sudden, my car, the computer, starts flashing. Engine power reduction, or whatever it says on the screen there. And I'm like, what in the hell is going on here? I look down at my gas gauge, Carrie. It's below E. And I'm like, oh, this is not happening. I'm 43 years old. I have a good career that I have people that are underneath me. I'm this person that's supposed to be on top of things, and I'm running out of gas. And I'm like, oh, this is a horrible feeling. So I called my friends up, said, hey, head over here with a gas can and bail me out. But I'm sitting there for 20 minutes waiting, and I'm just thinking of the helpless nature that this small little situation on a regular Friday morning in the middle of Montana, not a big deal. No one's getting hurt. I'm going to be a half hour late for work. Big deal. But I started to think, along the lines of your story of the ATM card. Imagine that. Imagine that situation in a regional or national or hemispherical or global situation where you're running out of fuel. And it doesn't have to be fuel. It could be your example of running to the ATM card. Everybody, for one reason or another, I'm assuming everybody, has tried to purchase an airline ticket online or some other purchase something online. And for whatever reason, maybe you're at your credit card limit. Maybe the website was experiencing some kind of security problem. It didn't process your card, and you have that instant feeling of, wait a minute, what's going on here? Why can't I use this resource that I have that I need? I need something.
How dare they?
How dare they? But there's also this little moment of panic. Oh my gosh, did I not send in the money? Did I not make a payment? Can I not access what I want to access? Well, imagine that on a scale that is huge, a huge scale. And a huge scale could be New York City, where they're shutting it down because they're going bankrupt. You have Chase, you have JP Morgan, you have Wells Fargo, and they're shutting down. They're implementing a self-imposed bank holiday. And it doesn't have to be because of a financial crisis. It could be because of a perceived cyber terror attack,
sure,
whatever the case may be. But imagine that. The panic that would ensue from that kind of situation. Not a situation you can fix by calling a friend with a gas can or rebooting your computer and getting your purchase handled, but a situation where it doesn't work and then it still doesn't work. It continues to not work. then you have the realization that you have what you have. You have what you have in your tank. You have what you have in your home. And that is it. That is it for an extended period of time. So if you start thinking of things in that perspective, then it makes a whole lot of sense to spend a few dollars now to avoid having to wade through that worry.
Yeah, you're pretty much going to be on your own. And just as an interesting aside, I never thought about this, but I'm always thinking, like, you live in a house, and what's to stop people from really breaking in if there's no social order? If there's no police on duty, or very few of them that are stretched too thin. And this house I rented, interestingly enough, probably because of hurricane threats, it's got this like auto glass in all of the windows, tempered glass.
Right.
And you pretty much couldn't get through that thing with a sledgehammer, which I thought, wow, I never even thought of that. But that's another preparation if you've got the funds and you plan to stay where you are that you could do. But in the meantime, without going to that extreme, get some metal, get some food, get a means of protection, and get a plan, most importantly, because brains are what's going to save you if this thing happens more than anything else. And that means being prepared, being ready, so that you can ride out the storm and you don't have to be part of the food riot. Anyway, Charlie, people want to find out more about you. They go to, where is that website again?
It's wideawakenews.com. I host a nightly radio program, 5 p.m. West, 8 p.m. East, runs for 2 hours, Monday through Friday, and you can get all the information about the program. And the website is basically oriented towards political, financial, economic, geopolitical news, and there's a lot of commentary on there as well, but wideawakenews.com.
Excellent. And also financialsurvivalnetwork.com. You can replay this interview if you've missed any, as well as we've got our webmaster, Stefan. He is the human aggregator. At any given time on his computer, he'll have 100 windows open, and he'll be posting articles. We could post anywhere from 30 to 100 articles in a day. It's almost too much, but people come to the site. It's become a go-to site for thousands of people around the world. So I highly recommend it. And sign up for the newsletter. Most importantly, go to preparewise.com, put LUTZ, L-U-T-Z, in the promo code blank there. Order that food today. I mean, look, this is so important. I can't emphasize it enough. I know Charlie talks about it on virtually every show. It's what you need to be doing.
No doubt about it. I agree with you 100%.
All right, Charlie. Hey, thanks so much for coming on. We will talk to you again real soon. Every day that the system goes on is a gift. Don't you be wanting it to come down because you don't know what's coming after it. Nobody does.
That's exactly right, Kerry.
All right, Charlie.